Hi, everyone. I just would like to encourage you again to put something in the chat. Thank you so much, Jeff, for starting that off there out of Salt Lake City, Utah. It is very interesting just to see who is joining and to hear who has been through the feature releases many times and who perhaps doesn't know exactly what we're about to talk about, but knows that it's something that they need to learn. It's always a good place to meet other people. We really like to foster building the community. And one way that we like to do that is through our webinars and to allow some of the more experienced folk out there to share what they know with others. So talking of experience, my name is Elaine Stewart. I have been working with M3 for over 20 years, which seems way too long. But I am now with Vince for 3 years. I'm based just outside Chicago. Vince is actually a company out of Norway, and Slush and myself are here based in the US. We're very excited to be hosting this webinar. It is a very topical subject that we're going to be reviewing about the releases. And we have two hope. Our first hope is that you will actually save time at the end of this by what you learn for moving forward in the future. And second of all, we hope that it provides some more clarity around the releases and gives you a good game plan and a peace of mind for how to move forward. And the person that's going to be showing you all of this is my colleague, Scott Slusher.
Scott Slusher here, coming to you from Fort Collins, Colorado. I'm the other half of Vince USA. Vince, I think we're up to around 80 people in Vince worldwide, mostly in the Nordics, and we have an engineering staff in Bangalore who help keep the product up to date. And also Elaine and I here supporting all of the US customers. So I was looking through the list. A lot of you I have met already, and I'm glad to see some familiar faces on the chat. But those of you who don't know me, I've been working with M3 for over 10 years now. I used to be an administrator of M3 at a company that's now a client of Vince. So, and now I'm here to help you get the most out of your Vince product. But today, I'm going to talk some about Vince and how we're using Vince to kind of help, make the feature releases tracking easier. But we're also going to talk and spend some time in M3 and talk about the releases and how M3 organizes that kind of stuff. Now, for those of you who've been on Cloud Suite for a long time, a lot of this is going to be maybe fairly obvious, or you understand it pretty well. But some of you haven't been on Cloud Suite very long, and so some of this might be a little bit new. So I'm going to jump into M3. I think, we're good to get onto that, right, Elaine?
Yeah. I can quickly go through the agenda here.
Okay.
So as he said, we will start off in M3. This will be a live demo, so nothing will go wrong. But just to get everyone on the same page, Scott will go through the most common programs, and not just the programs, but some of the fields that may or may not be known that will definitely be of use to you when you are trying to work with this in M3. Then he'll go in to show you what Vince Excel looks like. And for those of you who are not familiar with Vince Excel is an application, a cloud-based application that allows you to access your M3 data in a very easy way with multiple APIs, and it will allow you to pull that data into Excel where it's very familiar and easy to manipulate, make changes, and then with one click, you're able to load that data back into M3. So that makes it an excellent opportunity to demo the CMS 975, where there's so many different fields and you are wanting to make changes to that as you test things, as you approve some of these enhancements. And then you'll see how he's able to put that back into M3. And at the same time, we feel that IT quite often take on most of the burden with maintaining all of these releases. And we're going to show you a way that you can collaborate with the rest of your company and some of those other SMEs so that they can also be responsible for these features. And you'll see a really cool way and how Scott will automate that and even allow you to get email updates, linking it back to the KB article or to M3. So that is to come. And then we'll end up sharing some of the resources out there in for, and some of the partners have some great feedback.
It's funny. The Vince tool, a lot of companies use it for like master data maintenance and things like that, and in transaction data maintenance and all that kind of stuff. But this is there's sort of a new idea. It's like, could we use Vince to help you manage what's going on in the M3 releases? I want to give a shout out to Jim Stewart, sorry, from Clark, who actually gave me the idea to look and see how Vince might be utilized in this capacity. So Jim Clark, that's funny. Okay, I'm going to present now. Recursion. Okay, so a lot of you might be familiar with the panels in M3 that explain what M3 is putting into the Cloud Suite edition. These panels are CMS 970, and which gives a summary of what they are putting into the environment on a monthly basis. And so we can take a look here. This is the latest release that M3 put into our Cloud Suite editions, and this was back on February 8th. And you can see from 970 that it's got 4 different columns here in the standard view, and it's telling you the impact or the type of things that they put in. So I can see 11 zero impact items and 2 functional setting items. If we go back down here to this one, this was the first release of the year back in January 11th, we can see that there's one here that's a feature toggle release. These are the ones that we want to pay attention to for our semi-annual releases. So I remember when Vince came out with Cloud Suite, I was still an on-prem customer, and a lot of you may have made that similar journey from on-prem to Cloud Suite. And one of the advantages I thought about Cloud Suite, and I still think this, is that they will automatically put features and enhancements into the Cloud Suite edition, and you don't have to worry about installing your service packs and all of that stuff. Of course, if you were like me and you had a lot of modifications in your on-prem system, it made upgrading service packs difficult and challenging. And so, they've done, in my opinion, a really good job of kind of managing that as best they can. So I believe when they started, they had this idea that they would put in things once a month, and they still do that. And then there would be this backlog of items that were feature flagged off. And then it was up to each tenant to decide when they wanted to feature flag these things on. At some point pretty quickly after that, I think they realized, we need to kind of have a schedule for when we automatically turn these features on. And so they decided to do that twice a year, in April and in October. So they'll still do these monthly releases, but periodically the monthly releases will have stuff that's going to go into a future, we'll call it biannual release, right? And you can see, like, for example, this one in 10/12 had 53 feature toggle items in it. And also, as we know, the biannual releases happen in October and April and October. So you can see this is the April one. But what's interesting and maybe a little confusing is that if you were to go back and look at all the items that were in this release, you can see 24, 5, 1, 53, a lot of items. These are not the things that got released in October. Those were mostly these ones, but maybe a couple of these ones and maybe this one and this one. So they'll lay in wait, right, in the Cloud Suite edition, flagged off for a period of time. And then in October, they do 2 big things. They'll automatically turn on maybe all of these features, but not necessarily all of them. And they'll introduce a whole bunch more. And they kind of follow that cadence, but you'll see periodically they'll also, kind of sneak in one that's going to go into a future release. So if we were to go ahead and right click on this and go to CMS 975 and look at the feature list here, I picked this one because there's not that many. We can probably see these ones are not active. In my Vince environment, we don't really do a great job of turning on features ahead of time, to be quite honest. But you can see there will be an indication of when that's going to go live. So whatever features got loaded in this particular, what they call version of the monthly release, it's got 2 things that now have been added, but are not going to go live until October. So that's generally how it's going to happen. If you're like me, most people are mostly interested in when are these things going to go live, which is finding out what's in the biannual releases. Now, the basic panel here doesn't show you that information. It's based on like product and maybe install date, which is not the same as feature toggle date. So there are ways you can kind of manipulate your panels and get a view that kind of shows that a little bit better. But at Vince, we thought, well, why don't we build some kind of workflow that allows you to download that information on that biannual basis and put it into a spreadsheet so you can take a look at it a little more easily. Because I can't tell looking at this, like what's going to be in the April release in, oh my gosh, next month now, or what's going to come up next October, or what's maybe been put in here that's not going to be active until 2026. I've seen features that lay in wait, so to speak, for a long time. That does happen. It's not super common. It's usually about a 6-month cadence, but it does happen. So we went into Vince and we built a workflow that allows us to pull this data down using that biannual release date as our basis for searching or selecting the information. So I'm going to switch over to Excel, and the Vince product kind of operates in two areas. There's an administration web panel, and then there's also your Excel like user interface, basically. So we have a little widget here for those of you not familiar with Vince. And when you load in the widget, you'll have access to all of the workflows that are in your environment. I'm here in my Vince Playground environment, and I'm going to search for my CMS list features simple. I've got a simple workflow, and then we're going to go and show you a more complicated one. So what you can do in Vince is you can attach these Excel template or design files to your workflows. This helps you kind of organize, okay, I expect to see my NCR number in column B, my product in C, product version in column D, and you map this out in Vince so that you can see like, okay, what's going to happen now. Also here I've got a various selection criteria that I've configured for this particular export or select workflow. So I can specify an update schedule. I can specify which product I want, whether it's Business Engine or something else. I can also specify whether or not I want to look only for my activated or my non-activated features, and also that version, which is that long code that talks about which month something got added into. And you can add other filter criteria here. But really, what I'm most interested in is what's going to happen in April. So we can type in 2025-04, and then I'm going to eliminate these as filter criteria, and then I'll click run. Now, what this is doing now is it's calling export MI basically directly against the tables and getting the information for all of the features that are going to go live in April. Not super easy to find given the basic configuration of these panels here, but now that I've done this, I've got, okay, this is great. So this is telling me, okay, it's a list of the feature description, when you can get all of this information out of it, what feature type it is, and whether or not we've activated it, which we really have not in Vince, what the update schedule is supposed to be. Now, this is what I searched on. This is when is this going to go live? And then some additional information about each feature that you as a customer are allowed to sort of use if you want to kind of build a management process around looking at your features and deciding if they're ready to be activated. And these are these fields here I've got in yellow. All of these are like metadata that's usable by every client, where you can assign a user to, this is an M3 user, you can assign a user to this. You can assign a status to it. And M3 comes with, I think, 3 statuses, but you can add your own. And then you can add notes in here. You can see I've added please review as my feature note 1. So if we go to, you can view this information also in the panels. If we go back to feature list open, and if I click through one of these, let's just grab one at random, you can see I've got this panel, which has got kind of the M3 information, and then this one, which is mostly the information that is available to you. If I go back and I open this on a change instead of select, you can see the stuff that you're allowed to change. Of course, you can activate the feature. That's dangerously easy. And then you can also go in here and you can assign 17. That's my user ID. Please review. And then you can change this feature status. Now, I had created, I think what comes with M3 is unassigned, review complete. I think 10 and 50. Anything over 50 is going to change your feature toggle from under review to review complete or something like that. Let's go ahead and change this to review complete. And I click next. And then you can see it moved to review completed. If I move this back to 20, and this is a status I made up. And this says, okay, I've assigned this, but we haven't turned it on and it hasn't been reviewed. So now it's back to under review. Anything 50 and over automatically changes this review progress value, and you don't have any ability to control that. Now, if I wanted to say, yep, I've activated this thing, great. But there's a lot of features here, so you might want to make updates through the spreadsheet. I'm going to run this again, and we'll see if my user ID showed up in the one I manipulated from here. It should be here somewhere, unless I've got the wrong. Oh, it's down. There it is. It's down here. Oh, yeah. It's sorting a little bit differently, but there's the one I just manipulated down here. So, okay, all well and good. Also, some of this information is a little like, I can't remember what product 1 means or all this stuff. I'm not really sure what feature status 10 means versus something like that. So I created another spreadsheet which has some additional features in it that kind of provide more context and information to these things. And so I want to show you what that looks like. So I'll start a new spreadsheet here and go back to Vince Live. And now I'll run this other workflow that I created that has a little bit more information in it. So we'll click this. This is a different design file. And you'll see down here, I've got a number of different tabs. Now, these are things we created to give our company a little more context around like who might be responsible for reviewing something in a particular module. Give me some additional information about these product codes, what those mean, and whether or not these products are things that our company uses or doesn't use, or then maybe they're only for IT and not something that the business is interested in. And just a couple of other things here, like this is the feature type. Usually the ones we're curious about for these biannual releases are 3 and 4. I think 1s and 2s and 5s and 6s will show up in your monthly releases, but they are not part of the biannual releases. And then, whether or not features active or not active, what I can do with all these lookups is apply formulas in my spreadsheet here. So I can say, like, there's a lookup here on feature active description, or here we go all the way back to the beginning here. If I go the product, if I change that, you can see how this is just using an XLOOKUP formula. It's one of the nice features of Vince is I can put a bunch of formulas and cool stuff into my spreadsheet, and then I don't have to worry about this stuff going forward. We'll put in something that doesn't exist. There we go. And go from there. Additionally, I don't know about you guys, but when I'm looking at these descriptions of this thing, some of it might be, okay, I think I kind of understand what's going on, but you really want to go to the KB articles to find more information. And you can find that it's right here in the metadata of the feature. But I thought, well, wouldn't it be cool to have a hyperlink from your spreadsheet so you can just click through and it'll take you right to that article in KB. So you can build something like that into your spreadsheet as well. So let me go ahead and run the same. Okay. Oh, that's the wrong one. There we go. This was in a different order. 504. And let's see. Let's grab all that and suppress those filters. And we're just going to go ahead and grab all of my features again. But this time, it's going to load into these columns that have the information coming from M3, but this stuff is now going to kind of fill in based on these lookups a little bit more context and information. So coming through here, now I can see, okay, I got feature type 4. That means it's a process change 3. You can also add this conditional formatting and cool stuff like that. So now this gives me a little more idea of, okay, where are we at with these features? What's going on? Also, now I can change these feature statuses. And I've also added like, okay, here's who I think should be responsible. This is a lookup here that I built into this. Let's see, who do we think should be responsible? It's an M3 user ID. Obviously, these are just demo IDs based on where the component is on this, which is captured right here, the module, sorry, they call it. I always call it something else. But like, so you can say, okay, if I have a CRS feature, I know that CRS features should always be VXL002 users should do that. So I'm going to go ahead and apply VXL002 as my responsible user for this and change that to status 20. And then please review. Add that. And now I've got another workflow here in Vince. I can take this information and let's do a couple 006 and change that to status 20 and go please review. There we go. Now I can click this second workflow down here, this update features workflow. And there we go. We run that, and then it should apply this to these two features. And now they could go in, and you could run this report and give it out. And let's rerun it. And now we'll see if these two show up now with those settings changed, the responsible, the note, and the other business here. I've got this here. Let me move that. There we go. Okay. So moving along. Now we see, and again, it keeps sorting it. So the stuff that's not in 10 is down at the bottom. And I can see that I've got these are the two that I changed, 002, 006. Now, if they want to say, okay, you know what? I've reviewed this. Let's change this to 50. Let's change that to 50. That means I've reviewed it. It looks good. Review. Review complete. I can spell a little better. There we go. It's getting lunchtime and my spelling has gone to the dogs. Okay, so now I can run this again and it'll automatically set these values. There we go. And we'll just run this export one more time and make sure that it took effect. Now 50 means I've reviewed it and it's ready to be toggled on, but I haven't actually toggled it on yet. That's actually right here in this feature active column. You can see I've just kind of color coded them. Oh, you can see that's got the feature status 50 right at the top here. So now these ones are ready to be activated. And at the risk of breaking my Vince environment, we'll just go ahead and set those to active. Now this will, when I click this run button, it will now say, cool, we activated it. And quite frankly, I can't remember what what status I'm supposed to set this up to. Module. Oh, that's right. This is coming from M3. I think I can set this to 80 or 90. Let's try 90. You'll probably let me know if I did this wrong. Turned on March 6th. We can add this note here into feature note 3 and run that one more time. And now that's going to toggle these two features on in my Vince environment. There we go. So when I go back, and now if I want to search on this again, let me open in one more spreadsheet here, because now I can do, now that I've actually toggled on a couple of these things for my April release, I can now run this workflow one more time, but with a slightly different search criteria. Let's pull this design in here. And now I can say, okay, I'm interested in what is going on in the April release, but all I want to see are the ones that are toggled on. Let me see the things that have actually been turned on in my release. And it seems to have blown up on me. Oh no. Live demo. Let's retreat ever so slightly and run it without that feature active. Okay, there we go. And now that's better. And of course, by putting this in an Excel table, it of course allows me to do these formulas and auto-populate those, but I can also take advantage of this filter here. So I could easily get that information just by grabbing everything. And now I can see, okay, cool. These things went live. But getting back to the hyperlink, you can see here in this formula, I created a hyperlink builder. Now I could just click this and log into Infor Concierge, and I can see, let's see, lot number, creation respects time zone, and let's look at this one, support for trade agreement that spans multiple. There we go. And there we go. Now that takes me, all it does is run, I just built a hyperlink that's got the KB article and a query here, right? It's nothing too exciting. It's a search on ID and looking for a KB article here. And so then I can click through to that and get some more, the official M3 information here, which is a nice feature to have. Okay, I'll pause here momentarily in case there are any questions or anything like that, or if you want to see something else. One of the things I thought would be helpful was, well, okay, this is great. You can log in here if you're an administrator or someone that's paying attention to the biannual releases. But what if we wanted to send out like an email or something which has kind of the current status of what we're doing here with the release? So one of the features that Vince has is an email, a scheduler and an emailer. So I built another version of this, and I'll show this to you briefly here. Now we're looking at the Vince admin portal here. This is where you build the workflows. So those of you familiar with Vince have seen this before. Others who haven't, this is where you actually build all of these things that we've been running here. You can see my simple one. Here's my more complex one. I'll go into this real briefly to show you how we're pulling out that information from M3. And the way this is built is you will describe what APIs you're calling, what columns you're interested in and where you want to put them. And then this is where I built that filter step where I had those 4 options that you could kind of search on. Now, if you're familiar with the CMS 970, 975 MI APIs, they don't really have a great way to query for stuff that's in those biannual releases. So what I ended up doing was calling export MI instead and going right to the tables. I've got CSYFTL, which is the list of all the features. And then CSYFTS is a really obscure table that actually populates I'm going to it now, populates your feature status stuff. This is a table that all it does is has these things in it. So I don't know why they didn't go to CSY tab for that, but I'm grateful that they didn't because it's easier to do it this way. So that's all I've got this one going. So this is, you could also do an MDB read. I've actually thought about switching it out from export MI to MDB read just for speed and a little more control over things, but export MI works just great too. But this workflow is missing an email. So what I did here is I created basically a copy of this list features workflow, but added to it an email step where I could send the results of that query in an email. And so this is one of the features Vince has. You can describe, okay, should this go to a distribution list? Should it go to me and Elaine? And then down here, what information do I want to pull into it? There's a bit of code in here and stuff, but I just wanted to show you what's going on. Furthermore, in this step here, in this trigger step, I can schedule it to run. And you can see I've got minutes, hours, days. I can schedule it to run how often I want. I think what I did is I said, I want to run this automatically on the 1st and the 15th of every month. And so then I'll get the information I need out of it. And here, what I have to do, I do need to hard code the release. So I have got 2025-04 hard coded here. After April, I'll switch this out to 2025-10 and I'll keep the same workflow going, but then it will show me the information for October's release. So we'll go, even though this is a scheduled workflow, I can run this ad hoc as well, which I'm going to do right now. And you can see it's going to run, it's going to pull in the API, the information, hit Excel, and then eventually, here we go, it gets to the email step. And now And then it's going to show me kind of, okay, here's a view of everything that it got out of M3. And now let's go check my email, and we'll go to my notifications here. And here is the email that just got sent at 11:33. So this email, what I've done is it has fewer columns than the last one. And so you can see, oh, look, here's the ones that I've just activated. Here's other stuff that has been assigned but has not been reviewed. And then down here's all the rest of the stuff in here. But what I really want to draw your attention to are not one, but two hyperlinks here. One, this is that concierge hyperlink there. And let's see, we can click through this, and this will again take me to Infor, link to that. Eventually, there we go. It'll link to this query result, 228.27605. Sometimes you get a few extra things in here. It's not like the most precise, but I can see this is the KB article I'm interested in. And then I can click through that and get the information I need, just like before. So this is nice. You can just send this out to whoever, and they can have a really nice way to get to that information. Furthermore, you can hyperlink back to M3. So if I wanted to go into M3 and take a look at this information, I created a hyperlink here, and that will take me, log me into Infor, and it will log me right into that panel in CMS 975. I configured it so it opens it on a change. You don't have to do it that way. And then I could go through to my next panel here, this basic information. Maybe I realize that should really be me reassigning to Slusher. There we go, and click next. And so that's just another way to kind of get at that information, maybe a little bit quicker if you want to do it that way. So you kind of have flexibility. You could operate it through Excel by running the workflows there. You could set up one to send you an email or send other people an email so that they're aware at least of what's coming in April. So those of you, I would say, like last October, there were two features that had an impact on customers. And there's probably usually one or two. And depending on who you are, maybe there were different ones. But it's always a good idea to at least be aware of what's coming in April. I work with a lot of companies, and some have a pretty formal process around looking at what's coming and dealing with it. And others, you know, for various reasons, and I'm certainly not casting any judgment, don't have time, or they don't have a lot of ability to get in there and really find out what's happening. So some customers do get caught a little bit off guard sometimes when the release happens in April and October. So what I'm finding here is, you know, we don't really know how exactly you want to manage these things, but I feel like Vince has a couple of tools here that make it at least easy to get that information out. So kind of taking care of step one of it right for you, you know, okay, at least we know it's easy to get the info out of what's coming. If you have time to deal with it and toggle the things on beforehand, bully for you. That's great, you know. But this at least takes some of that trauma out of the process. So that's all I really had to present right now. I'm going to take off my sharing here. There we go. All right, now it's back to me and Elaine. So that's kind of all Elaine, did I forget anything?
No, I don't think you did, Scott.
Okay, great. Thanks for bearing with me. The live demos are always exciting, and there's usually a couple of hiccups.
I think, Scott, we were wanting just to talk through some other uses of Vince Excel in the ease of getting data out and into M3. Do you want to talk about, so these are some of the pre-configured templates that we have already in Excel. So these are the ones that were the most common over working with the tool for the last 15 years, I think it is now. Scott, do you want to talk about some of the more popular ones here on the list?
Yeah. So at some point, Vince decided to build what they call the painkillers. And these are pre-configured workflows that are built into groups, kind of like what you saw me doing there for the management, where you have one workflow that's like, export me the features. And the second one is like, okay, allow me to update those and send them back to M3. So all of these headers here follow that same format. So for example, in supply chain there on the right-hand side, you've got that MMS 010 location maintenance. So that means Vince will come preloaded with a set of workflows that allow you to export or download your locations from M3, make adjustments to those locations, and then push that back into M3. And not only just updating, but you could also add new locations from your spreadsheet. And in, I would say, about half of the cases here, we also supply a delete feature to allow you to remove locations, in this case, from MMS 010. So you can do all of that work just in the spreadsheet instead of having to go through the panels and do it manually. So location is perhaps not as exciting as some others because it's pretty much just a single panel. But like MMS 001 has like 6 or 7 panels. It can be really tedious, even just maintaining a single item to go through every single panel to get to the one you want, or do all that. You can do it in Excel just by having all the columns you want or you care about managing in a single spreadsheet. You don't have to care what panel it's in. You don't even have to care what API or program it's in. Vince can take care of all of that complexity for you. So that's nice, but it really gets powerful when you have not just one item or one location you're trying to manage, but dozens or even hundreds or thousands. You can make your adjustments in a single spreadsheet, click one button, and it'll go through every row in that spreadsheet and make the necessary adjustments or additions all in one click. So that combination of that multiple APIs and multiple rows can really save you a lot of time when having to deal with all of this master data and, of course, operational data as well. You can see, do we have is a CO order in there?
Yes, there is.
Oh, yeah, it's down at the
Customer
bottom
orders.
Yeah. So we've had, it's, sometimes it's corner cases or interesting things like that, but you may have parts of your business that are manually loading orders into your system on a daily basis. You can have them do that via a spreadsheet, and it's transactional data, but they can just close a day. Let's load the orders that we took into Vince using a single click instead of having to go through and manually do it. Or, a lot of you are, of course, familiar with Smart Data Tool or EVS 100, and those work great until you have like several APIs that you need to call in a particular sequence. And what's nice about Vince is you can put all those into a single workflow. So it's a single click for your user instead of click, do one API, look at the results, and then move on to the second one, and then move on to the third and fourth one. So that's where we're seeing a lot of people really utilize Vince in that regard.
And if you would like some more information, we obviously have our website there along with my email address. But do want to point out that while this wasn't getting into the details of what's actually in each of the features, there is a plethora of information out there. We were on the Infor website, so if you have access to Concierge, you'll be able to see all of the details there. There's a very nice PDF of 140 pages, along with quite a few videos that Infor's released. I do believe today is the date that I think there's 24 knowledge sessions which home in different areas of what actually has been released in M3 and how it might be useful for your business. And you can find that all on Infor.you. I do see some of our partners also coming out with different offerings. I believe there's another one from Fortude later this month, and some other partners have different things to offer. Here are some of our partners. If you're familiar with those, then please reach out or contact myself or Scott with any questions. We'd be happy to set up a demo so that you could see not just working with CMS 975, but perhaps with more of those templates there. If there was any that are giving you some pain points or you would like to see, we would love to show you. Please reach out.
Also, if any of you are interested in receiving that email, if for no other reason to get those links to the KB articles, it's kind of a handy reference. Please let me know. You can put it in the chat, and I'll be happy to submit that job again and send an email directly to you. The M3 link won't work real well for you because that'll go to my Vince tenant, but the KB article link will be there. Where do you go? Oh, The workflows for CMS 975 and 970 are not part of the painkillers. If you're an existing client and you're interested in this, let me know. I am happy to build it for you in your environment. It doesn't take long. I've already got it all set up. I can build it in like about 10 minutes or so for you. So ping me, please, and I will be happy to do that for you.
Yes, we'll also send out the template. Slush, would that be interesting? We could send that out with all the customers so you have the design file there ready to go.
Yeah. And I don't know if Elaine mentioned this. Elaine and I will be at Muga. I don't know how many of you are planning to attend that in, gosh, just over a week down there in South Carolina. I don't know where all you are from, but it's been pretty cold here in Colorado, so I'm excited to get some sun and surf. But we're giving a cool kind of hands-on demo Monday afternoon if you're getting in early. So please come and swing by and say hello. Of course, we'll have our booth set up there, and we're giving not one, but two talks at Muga, one on customer extension fields, which are super fun for everyone, and most of you probably use. And the other one is on a new product that we have. What are we calling it now? Segregation of duties. Is that right?
Yeah,
Elaine?
VINS compliance.
Yeah, VINS compliance. Maybe you want to give a 2-minute plug on that, Elaine.
Yeah, you're exactly right. It does cover segregation of duties. So any customers out there who have several users and you're trying to make sure that they don't have incorrect permissions, and just to help somewhat with any auditors who are looking for reports to understand exactly who has access to what in M3. And then this is a tool that's very easy to attach onto VINS Excel, and it will keep you on top of all of your permissions. But yes, if anyone is coming early and would like to have that hands-on session, to be able to do that, there are a few steps ahead to get you all set up. It's a very quick process to create an authorized app to your M3 environment, and Scott will walk you through that. But we would need to hear within a day or two if you're interested in that. And if so, we'd be delighted to get you set up. It really is powerful to be working with Excel and to start seeing your own data rather than watching the demo data. So we welcome you to join us.
Yeah, what we got, maybe a couple more open slots for that?
Yes, 2 more slots are left.
Cool. Yeah, that'd be super fun. But even if you haven't got around to that, or you're not ready to take that plunge, please swing by, and I'd love to.
And we're also recruiting existing customers. So we see you here. If you're coming, if you can swing by and just be that extra assistance to people who are doing this for the first time, or perhaps just sharing a line or two about how you're using VINS, that would be fantastic.
Or if you got difficult questions you want me to answer, I am here for you. In the flesh in South Carolina. All right. Well, thanks, everyone. I appreciate you listening. I hope you got something cool out of this today. And yeah, talk to you next time.
Thank you, everyone.